Glad to be with you and glad to share with you a little bit about what digital sales transformation looks like in the fourth industrial revolution. If you don't know what the fourth industrial revolution is, hang tight. I'll get to that, but glad to be with you and glad to be part of this event. I wanted to just kick off and say selling is hard. It's not easy, is it? And technology and digital technology is supposed to make things easier, but we're sometimes making it harder. We're introducing more manual processes or workarounds with technology. Maybe there's new technology out there, but there's not a lot of automation, or maybe the data is poor. There's a lack of visibility a lot of times with new technology, and it's harder because you have to work within the constraints of the technology, and you can't work how you're used to working or how you've always worked. And the systems that are sometimes given to salespeople make it hard for them to get the information they need at the right time. And so sales reps are typically trying their hardest to accommodate, hoping it will make them better, but really seeing digitization as a big brother because it's taking time from their day and taking time. Digitization isn't going away, and I want to talk a little bit about how organizations, progressive organizations, are taking advantage of digital technologies in today's world. I love what our CEO says when he talks about what organizations need to do. He says, as a company, you need to get to the future first, ahead of your customers, and be ready to greet them when they arrive. And I think that talks a lot about what organizations need to do when it comes to changing the way they work. They need to understand their customers and the customer experiences that they want to have. They need to move fast enough to meet those experiences and have a culture of welcoming them in. I mentioned the fourth industrial revolution. Let me talk about that for a minute because we've gone through these different revolutions over time, over the last 300 years. Started off with steam, moved to electricity, moved to computing, and now we feel like we're entering into a fourth industrial revolution, which we're calling intelligence. And we're not the only ones calling it that at Salesforce, but we're excited to be on the forefront of that. And this fourth industrial revolution has introduced some new technologies as well, technologies that you've probably heard of, like IoT, artificial intelligence, blockchain, data science, all of those. And these new technologies, which you've heard of, are being created to help you as sales leaders and your sales reps, but they're also, more importantly, being created to help customers. These aren't just new inventions. They're new innovations. An innovation is when you have a new invention that meets a market demand. And the reason why these new technologies are being invented is because customers are becoming more intelligent. Customers are understanding more what processes look like. Customers are smarter. Customers are holding supercomputers in the palm of their hand every single day, and they're being more empowered. They understand when they work with you what type of experience they're going to get, whether that's a digital experience or not. And so as an organization, the most successful companies are moving the customer to the center of their business, and they're starting to make decisions based on their customers. So as you look at your processes and sales, and even beyond sales, in what is kind of broader customer management and service and marketing, think about whether the customer is at the center of your business or if you're making decisions based on your internal business process. Are you able to get things done? Our State of the Sales report that we came out with this year talked about how the sales experience, the customer experience in sales, is the #1 driving factor for many sales organizations. We're seeing 14% increase in revenues for those companies that are focused on putting the customer at the center of their business and making decisions based on that customer and not based on internal process and protocol. So as organizations are trying to transform with these new technologies, and as these new technologies are based on the customer's asks or making the customer experience better, organizations are continuing to fail. And I'm sure as a sales leader, you've been through many failed digital transformations in your experience, in your tenure. In fact, we find that most organizations fail. In fact, 90% of them we're finding are failing at becoming digital. Because they don't make things easier, they make things harder for people. There's legacy systems and siloed data that are impacting your ability to digitally transform and have access to the data you need to make decisions about your customers. There's not a clear structure or a plan, so digitization is forced on individuals without them being able to understand the why behind it. We find that business and IT aren't aligned. Maybe you want to improve your sales experience, but you're handcuffed by constraints that exist in existing IT processes or protocols. There's also talent or skill gaps. There's huge generational gaps when it comes to digitization. I was talking to a company, a sales organization at a company recently, and they said that they have kind of two different types of sales reps. They have millennials that are leveraging new technologies and want more new technologies, and then they have the older generation who doesn't want to use new technologies and is still finding success in selling the way they've sold for the last 20 or 30 years. So especially for that generation, you see talents and skill gaps on using and taking advantage of new digitization. There's also a culture resistant to change. Many times when new technologies come out that are supposed to help sales and enable sales, many sales reps just think, this too shall pass. We're not going to need to take advantage of these new technologies because they're going to go away, and I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing. And overall, the organizations have an inability to execute. So digitization has a warning sign. Most organizations are failing at it because they're not looking at it with the right lens. And the person that suffers is the sales rep, because what that creates for the sales rep is less selling. Digital transformation for those organizations that are failing at it creates less time selling because it's taking the sales rep away from the customer. And it's increasing their amount of administrative tasks. It's increasing the amount of training and meetings that they need to have. And they're not able to get done what they're hired to do and what they like to do most. In fact, you can see 2/3 of the time of sales reps is spent not selling. So I want to talk about what are successful organizations doing to overcome this, because digitization isn't going away. Customers are going to continue to get smarter. They're going to continue to expect more. And as they expect more from you as an organization, you need to be able to respond to that. They can log on to your website and they can know whether you're a digital organization or not. Customers are making decisions today on which tax accountants they used based on their ability to submit documents and sign electronically. No longer do they want to scan their documents in or print something out and sign it and scan it back to their tax accountant, or meet in person with all the paperwork and sign manually. They want to use a digital way of signing. They do it with their banks. They're doing it with mortgage companies. And if you don't get ahead in digitization, then you're not going to be able to succeed in your customer base. So let me talk about what organizations are doing to succeed in digitization. That 10% that is successful, let's talk about what they're doing. What they're doing is they're recognizing that in order to succeed in the new fourth industrial revolution and in the digital age, you need to work differently. And working differently has kind of two aspects to it. There's what we call above the waterline and below the waterline aspects to it. And with this analogy of the iceberg, above the waterline are the things that are visible, the new ways of working that are visible, the new tools, the new systems, the new structures, the new processes. And there are some new trends that I'm going to talk about in a minute that organizations are doing in the digital age in sales to be successful. But it doesn't stop there because there are certain below the waterline factors that are vitally important to digital success for your organization. And those below the waterline factors include kind of the intangible, the non-human or the human aspects, the cultures that exist in organizations. So as a sales rep, what are my behaviors in the organization? What are my assumptions about how work actually gets done? What values do I hold dear? And what are some of the unwritten rules? And those are really critically important. Those new ways of working are critically important to the tools, systems, and structures and everything above the waterline being successful. Because you can put in the best technologies, the best processes, the best structures, but then they're not successful because people mess it up, don't they? People are really good at messing up things they don't want to use because they don't align to their values or they don't align to how they want to. Organizations try to move into new digital technologies, they only focus on above the waterline factors. They only focus on buying Salesforce, buying a cloud technology and saying, if we just implement that tool, then we're going to be successful with our customers. Or if we just put in this new process, we're going to be successful. But the key message is here that not only do you need to focus on new structures above the waterline, but you need to focus on new behaviors. So let's jump in. Let's talk about what some of those new structures are in the fourth industrial revolution and what some of the new behaviors are as well, and then we'll wrap up. When looking at the structures, they're really new optimized operations and leading edge technologies to help you get ahead in the fourth industrial revolution. And there's 4 of them that we've seen trending across the organization. The first one is intelligence for sales. So engines that recommend things for sales, reps. The second one is taking ownership of technology. As the SVP of sales, you should own the technology that you use, and we'll talk about that in more detail. The mobile-first sales rep is a trend that we're seeing in the digital world, and then coaching over training or coaching trumping training is the new process that we're seeing in a digital world. Let's dive into some of these in a little bit more detail. First off is intelligence, or artificially intelligence, AI-powered salespeople. They're really going to have the edge. In fact, 80% of sales teams using intelligence are reporting a positive impact on customer retention. 72% of business leaders have said that artificial intelligence is a business advantage. And sales reps are not scared of robots taking over their jobs, but they're more worried about a salesperson that's empowered with intelligence as opposed to a machine. And that's pretty exciting, is that artificial intelligence is giving time back to sales reps. It allows them to focus on building relationships. Think about how this might work if you're using a system, and let's say you have an opportunity that a sales rep is working, and he probably has 10 or 15 different opportunities going at one time. The system can automatically know how often the sales rep is reaching out to a contact on one of those opportunities. So let's say John hasn't reached out to Bob in 3 weeks yet, but yet Bob is in stage 4 of John's pipeline. And so John really needs to reach out to him, but Bob didn't respond to an email, or John tried to call Bob, but didn't answer, so it's kind of fallen off his plate. What the systems are doing today is not only can the system recognize that John needs to call Bob, but the system can also let the sales rep know and schedule an appointment on his behalf so that he can meet with Bob. So the next day that John logs in, they'll get a message from the system, from artificial intelligence, that says, in stage 4 of your pipeline. I've gone ahead and set up a meeting on Thursday with Bob for you to talk to him, and Bob's accepted. Go ahead and start preparing for your meeting. That takes time away from the administrative work and allows the sales rep to get more relationship time. The second trend we're seeing, and this is really about speed, but we're seeing business leaders, SVP of sales, take over the technology. This is from Gartner, where they said systems of innovation for CRM are advancing quickly, and if IT organizations don't respond with speed and agility, then CRM executives will bypass them and choose their own IT solutions. And that's a trend we're seeing. We're seeing progressive organizations, progressive sales leaders have their leadership team, and on that leadership team they have sales enablement, sales operations, they have their sales managers, but then they also have their technology leader, and they have admins and developers, and they have architects that are on their team within their organization, not in IT, but within their business organization, that are building out their sales apps and that are delivering new technology to their sales users. No longer, or gone are the days of passing technology ideas over to IT and waiting for them to deliver. Today, organizations are taking technology in their hands because technology has become much more simple to deal with. They have their own people that are building fields, that are building workflows, that are building forecasts, that are building account plans, and they're doing all of that within their own organization so that the development of the technology is as close as possible to the customer and to the sales rep. So think about that for your organization. You've probably done a little bit of this in kind of a shadow IT, let's not tell IT about this. but why not make it official and say we're going to take ownership of our technology, and we're going to have our own developers and admins that are delivering technology to us. The next trend we're seeing is mobility. In fact, this Gartner study said that by 2018, manual data entry by salespeople for Salesforce automation systems will be reduced by 50% due to adoption of mobile sales productivity tools. So think about what your sales rep has the ability to do on a mobile device. Are they able to capture at the right moment the data they need to be successful? Are they able to deliver data to customers at the right moment through their mobile devices? Most sales reps live and die by their phone, and you don't want them to wait until Friday to go in and put in all of their administrative tasks. You want them to do it in the moment, so you have real-time view into what's happening so they can pivot. So what's your mobility plan? How are you able to help your sales reps have the ability to do what they need to do through their handheld devices, and make that easy for them to do? And then the fourth trend that we're seeing is around coaching. And I think these graphs from Xvoyant really tell it well, where you can see the impact of coaching on the left-hand side, or I'm sorry, you can see the impact of training on the left-hand side, where retention on what they've trained on drops significantly in the first 20 minutes. But not only that, it continues to drop where they retain only about 20% of what they were trained on after 1 month. Now let's combine that with coaching. Real coaching empowered by the sales manager, where if you combine some of that training that gets down to 20% with coaching, all of a sudden they're retaining 88% of what they need to do. It improves returns fourfold, and sales reps are executing on the proven process that drives sales success in your organization. Now, as I said, those are some of the above the waterline structures, systems, processes that progressive organizations are taking with sales. Now I want to get to some of the below the waterline, or the cultural aspects of working in new ways. How are sales reps supposed to act? How are they supposed to change their behavior in the new digital world? We have found 4 cultural characteristics in progressive sales organizations that are helping them be successful. First and foremost is kind of what we've been talking about. It's that sales rep is customer obsessed, that their focus and their efforts all center around creating value for that customer. It's no longer customer, you need to be on my time, you need to follow my process, but it's more, I need to follow what the customer wants and give them what they need and create an experience for them that's positive. So creating an environment where customer obsession is encouraged and even led by leadership, and focusing on the customer experience through sales is critically important to your success. The next one is being nimble and collaborative. Many organizations are trying to grow through solution selling. And many organizations, especially those that go through merger and acquisition, have different salespeople calling on the same customer multiple times. And so being nimble and collaborative with other groups is critically important to create a cross-functional sales team that focuses on the customer, and finding individuals that have the characteristics of being able to collaborative and winning for everybody. In other words, making sales a team sport and not an individual sport is really important to your digital success. Open and accountable, creating a trusting environment where your sales reps are open to candidly share their concerns and their ideas, and as a leader, you can accept those, and you can take them in, and you can say, yes, this is how we need to grow. And creating safety for your sales reps to come up with new approaches and new ideas is super important. Systems are really good, but what you find is you put a new system in place and people don't start using it because they don't want to be accountable for who they are. Creating a culture of accountability and openness, and making it safe for sales reps to be open and accountable will help them do things like put in their opportunities sooner and update their close dates more accurately, and be able to come to you when they have a problem. Google did a study on high-performing teams recently called Project Aristotle, where they went through and measured different teams and how well they work together, and who are the most successful teams at attaining their quotas or attaining their retention rates or whatever the measure was. And they looked at different factors. on those teams to see what was the factor that made them successful. Was it that they were all really good at their job, really qualified? That wasn't it. They said, was it that they were all super smart, that they all had a lot of education, or were they led by an intelligent leader? That wasn't it either. Was it that they all collaborated together? Did they all go out for drinks after work and they did out-of-work activities and created a real kind of buddy system within the team? That wasn't it either. The one thing that they found that was the common denominator for the most successful teams was what they called psychological safety, being able to be open and honest and transparent in the group. And are you creating that as a leader, or are you not? And then the last one, the characteristic we're seeing is risk-taking and innovative. And by nature, a lot of sales reps are very risk-taking, but being able to encourage that risk and seeing failure as a learning. If somebody loses an opportunity, how do you respond as a sales leader? Are you upset and do you point the finger? Or do you say, thanks for trying, good try, let's figure out what we did wrong, and let's take more risk and move forward? And the reason that these cultural characteristics are so important and those below the waterline activities are so important, and they're the things that really move this iceberg, and this analogy is because the face of sales is changing. Helping is becoming the new selling. And customers want somebody they can trust, somebody who's going to be open and accountable with them. They want somebody who's nimble and responsive and collaborative. They want somebody who's productive. They want somebody that's connected across the board. And they want somebody who's an expert. That's what they're looking for. And so the big message here is that your digital sales success depends on your people working in new ways. And that's with new technologies and with new cultures and structures. And we found that as you drive digital sales success in your organization, you see immediate results. You see increases in revenue, sales productivity, forecast accuracy, lead conversion, win rates. But all of this doesn't come just by putting a new system in place or putting a new structure in place. It comes with that combination of putting new systems and structures in place with new cultural characteristics and new ways of working. And I'm excited at where we're headed. I'm excited for the fourth industrial revolution and being able to see how organizations are digitally transforming their sales experience. And I'd love to hear from you on what you're seeing, if any of this resonates, and would love to talk to you more about that. I appreciate your time today. I hope you enjoy the rest of the Visualize Summit. Here's my name and my contact information. Feel free to reach out. I'm happy to respond, happy to engage with you if you want to talk more. Thank you and have a great day.